My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today I'm excited to bring a topic around the cost of not investing in yourself. With it being the new year, and at the start of the new year when this podcast is being recorded, if you're listening in actual time, it's such an interesting time of the year. You know, everyone's excited, New Year's resolutions, maybe you've set new goals, but what is the cost of not going all in on yourself, not investing in yourself in a multitude of different ways? And of course, this podcast is geared towards health, wellness, anti-aging, taking care of yourself, and living at an optimal level. And I wanted to go right into a story and some things that even I just have experienced here at the new year. As I'm sure you can appreciate, this is, an interesting time for someone who's in the health, weight loss space. We hear a lot of things. And so what's interesting, and I was just, I just was kind of going through some of my previous calls that I've had here, and I had spoken with a woman. It's been just right about a year ago. And this woman, when we spoke on the phone, she was just sharing with me that, yes, she desired to lose some weight. She, didn't feel as good as she wanted to in her own skin, but she just wasn't ready to invest at the level in which I was asking, just based on my pricing, the time and effort and things that were going to go into the program. And so it just wasn't the right time. And I'm always of the mindset that if it isn't the right time, it's going to be, not a good experience for both of us. I'm going to be pulling, you're going to be pushing, and it's not going to be a good relationship. And so I'm very mindful and aware of this. And sometimes people do just need a nudge, and there's a difference, and there's a different tonality. There's a different conversation to be had. And with this particular woman, I could tell she's just not ready to go all in on herself. And that is okay. But now let's come, 1 year later, and this person reaches back out to me. Now, the thing with social media, you stay connected and you can, see this person. And I was like, man, she still hasn't made any changes. And, for me, that's challenging. But what was interesting is she reached out to me, and I was extremely thankful for that. And she said, hey, I'm ready to get started. I need to do something. I just went to the doctor. I got put on blood pressure meds, and I'm not okay with that. And I was like, awesome, great. Let's get you going. Let's jump on a call. We booked a call. And, a day before that call, I received a text message that she was deciding to go with a different program, and a program that I have had countless women do this program. It's a national program. There's meetings, you show up, you get on the scale, we all support each other. But I also know it doesn't ultimately change the woman. It does not get the woman all the way to her results. Not always, but for the most part. And again, I've been doing this for 20 some years. Like, I have seen it all. And so I was a little flabbergasted, and I was a little taken back, and I was like, normally I would just say, okay, cool, whatever, you got this, go get them. But this woman had reached out to me before. I have followed this woman on social media. I've seen, and the fact that she reached out and her health is in an even worse position, right? And I care. And so as a professional, I was not okay with this person going with a far inferior product. And so I just said, hey, here's the reasons why I don't recommend doing this. This is my experience from having countless clients use this system. And here's what I recommend instead. And I was not given a very nice message back. All good, right? And so I was so challenged because I was like, man, I actually care enough to tell you what is actually not going to help, but yet this person is still unwilling to understand what it's actually going to take for them to get the help and the coaching and the support. And it's not so much here, eat off this meal plan, eat off this point system, for example, which again, that has its all kinds of flaws around it. But I understand what this person needs. This person needs that next level of coaching and support. This person needs to have the mental programming to understand why we have or have not made changes over, however many years that we have been on this earth. And so there's so much more that needs to go into this weight loss journey. And so what is it actually costing her to not see her results? And so when we think about it, now we're on medicine and a medicine that we can absolutely get off of, once we can lose some weight, 100%. So there's a cost going into the doctor, the copays, the time and effort sitting in the doctor's office. There's so many costs that we can add up. And those are just, some quick ones that I can think about. But what is it costing you to not go 100% towards your health and wellness goals? And what's interesting when someone looks at the price point to have a coach such as myself, such as my husband, it is an investment. It is an investment in your longevity. And the way we're going to coach you is not just some cookie cutter, hey, here's a neat, meal plan. Here's a cool workout that we thought was fun to do. This is an actual customized program that is created for you. There is coaching and support. There is mental programming that most people don't even understand, just to be completely genuine. The things that we are trained in are a whole nother level in a neuro-linguistic programming to understand language, to understand some of the stories and the limiting beliefs that actually hold people back that they don't even realize that they have. So I ask, what is the cost of not investing in yourself, not getting the right coach? And, maybe she didn't think I was the right coach, and that's okay. I venture to say not, because, you don't come back to someone who you've been connected on social media if you didn't feel that there was some congruency. And by all means, I am not the only coach out there. I am not always going to be the right person. But if you're coming back to me multiple years, your health has only gotten worse, it's time to really take a step back and to say, dang, maybe I don't know this solution. Maybe I do need to go all in and invest at a level that, quite frankly, scares me. See, we've spent into the six figures on coaches over, our 20 years, it's almost 20 years, so 17 years of being in business. And so to the point now where I'm always just like, how much is this going to cost me, right? Jokingly, but within reason, I know that I'm going to have to invest in myself if I'm going to get from point A to point B. And I don't exactly know all the steps. And that, hands down, has always come back tenfold. Have we made some mistakes on coaches? 100%. It happens. But you always will extract what you want from each coach. Okay. And that's a really, really important thing. Another story that I wanted to share with you here is, my husband and I, this is so funny. We have not been a part of a traditional gym for over 20 some years. We have always had our private training facility. And before that, we worked at a very high-end club in our city. And so it never really felt like you had a gym membership because you just have always had a really nice private workout facility where you just didn't have to really deal with going to a commercial gym. Well, funny enough, this week we joined a commercial gym, and it's great, right? It has all the things, it has all the perks, and we're super excited. The kids can go off to some of the kids' activities, and it keeps them active, which is really fun. But we were walking up into the workout facility, and my husband locked eyes with a gentleman, and he was like, "Man, I know him." And very quickly, he put two and two together, and he realized, man, I actually used to work with this guy 25 years ago, maybe more. And he was like, my husband was so taken back. He was a little flabbergasted, to be completely honest. Now, doesn't mean you can't have the same job for, 20 plus 30 years, but he was just a little shocked that, holy moly, somebody still works in the same position, in the same company. And let's just be honest, as a personal trainer, it is a very, very challenging job to pick up weights, he was actually physically stretching an older gentleman. And, the wear and tear on the body being a personal trainer, it is a lot. And so he was just like, all these thoughts were running through his head. And he was like, man, I can't believe he hasn't realized that there's so many other ways to help people. Now, with all respect, this gentleman may just love what he does and maybe works a certain amount of hours and it's not as hard on his body. But let's just be honest, he was not in what we would expect a trainer's shape to be in. But again, doesn't mean you can't effectively help people, but there just is a standard that we personally have when it comes to what we look like, how we feel. And it was just one of those things, kind of stepping back saying, man, this guy has never thought about what else. And maybe he has. And so we're obviously making a lot of assumptions here, but on the flip side, have you been doing the same thing over and over and over again, maybe in your health, maybe in your relationships, maybe in your career, and you've always had this itch to go for something else, to do something more with your life, but maybe you had a belief that, nah, not me, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. This is good enough is good enough, right? And if that's you, and if this is, hitting home or triggering, as some people say, then I want you to lean into that. And I want you to start asking yourself some critical questions of, what is this costing me to continue to show up in the same way every single day? Maybe that's your health. Maybe that's your career. Maybe it's the relationships and you just don't love where you're currently at today. What is the cost of staying the same? For so many of us, we don't strive and go for more in our life because there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety of what if, can I do this? What if this happens? And we tend to go worst case scenario. That's just typically how we're wired. But what is this actually costing you to stay the same and to not invest in yourself, whether it's just the time and effort to invest in looking for a new career opportunity or, looking into how to better your relationships or your health and wellness? Have you ever added up what it's costing you to stay the same? And have you ever asked the critical questions of, why don't I invest in myself? So I'm venturing to say that this one's kind of shaking you a little bit, and there's a purpose to that. But here's what I'm going to tell you is, if you keep showing up every single day the same, nothing changes, right? And maybe you're saying, hey, Arin, it's all good. And that's cool. That's fine. This podcast is definitely not for you. But maybe you're saying like, okay, girl, I gotcha. Like you're speaking to me right now. And what I want this to serve is you to ask the critical questions of, what is it costing me to stay the same? And what is it going to cost me to invest in myself? And what is going to be the return on investment, the ROI? See, this is something we always do in business. We're always asking, what is the ROI? What is the return on spending this kind of money? What am I going to get in return? Far too many times we don't do this with our health. We chalk it up. This is what insurance costs. We chalk it up. This is what my copays are, my deductible. This is just the medicines I have to take. Now, here's the deal. If this is a metabolic disease, listen, you can do things to mitigate this, okay? Just being 100% transparent here. But what is it costing you in the time sitting in the doctor's office? What is it costing you to go wait in line at CVS? Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful I don't have to do that. But I see that line and I'm just like, holy moly, that looks terrible. What is it costing you to not invest in a different pattern? Now, what I'm venturing to say is you're probably scared. You're afraid of what if it doesn't work. And I'm here to challenge you. What if it did work? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever pondered, man, what if I did invest a couple $1,000s into my health and wellness? I'm already spending that already in the course of a year. But what if I take these couple $1,000s here and really turn my health around? Can you put a price on having more energy? Can you put a price on all your clothes fit? And when you wake up in the morning and you put those clothes on, you look in the mirror and you're like, damn, she looks good. Can you imagine getting those looks from your husband again? What's the cost of that? So I'm here to ask you to flip the script. What would happen if you went all in, you invested in yourself, you got the coach to help you take your health to the next level? Wouldn't have to show up to pointless meetings, weigh on a scale in front of all these people. I don't even understand why that makes sense, but I guess it does. That would terrify the crap out of me. And I'd be like, yo, can we do this at 5 a.m.? Because like, I got to be naked. Just went to the bathroom. Just kidding. But you see where I'm going with this. The whole system is flawed too. Your life is not going to evolve around points. The other thing that I saw is they added in using the GLP-1s, which again, I'm not against this, but there's a right way to do this. If they're not microdosing it, if you don't have a physician watching over every single aspect, and if you're not doing progressive resistance training with progressive overload, you are going to lose lean tissue and you're going to put yourself in a worse off position by not doing the full picture. See, some of these programs only address the nutrition, and that is a huge flaw. I can't believe there's coaches out there that even offer programs that don't offer the resistance training. As a person is losing weight, they have to continue to strength train to healthy age, to optimize their health, to have longevity. You know, getting your nutrition right is just one piece of the puzzle. So take 2025 and choose to go all in by investing in your health. Invest in your relationships, invest in your career and your potential. Stop holding yourself back.